Welcome back. So in our series of going through kind of a walkthrough of Fresh Service and that sort of thing, I thought I'd do a bit on the onboarding module. It's probably not the best documented in terms of a demo. So what I'm going to do today is kind of take you through how it's set up. We're going to use my demo environment, which is largely based on a lot of the out-the-box stuff when you turn on workspaces and that sort of thing. And it's what we use at Zest to run our Fresh services, but also we use it to do a lot of this demonstrations and videos and stuff like that. So I'm going to run you through that today, take you through kind of setting it up, some of the basics, some of the things that I've learned over the time working with various clients on getting this set up and getting you familiar with it. And then we'll do a separate part 2 video that says this is what it looks like from the user's perspective and how that comes in from maybe the HR team raising a ticket and stuff. So we're obviously starting in the admin panel. And if we've got workspaces enabled, which we do in this instance, so we've got IT, HR, legal, and facilities, we're going to do employee onboarding. Now, onboarding is at the global level because it covers all those teams. So when we're configuring stuff for onboarding, it's important to remember that if the workflow needs to run off the back of an onboarding ticket, or it needs to be in the global position rather than in the workspace specific it's a workspace. So I would say most clients, the HR team are the ones that initiate the onboarding processes. That seems to be fairly typical these days. So maybe we'll call this HR business partner. Again, that's kind of common. We're then going to select which contact groups those teams belong to. So by default in Fresh, this is my HR team. So here you can see whether they belong to an agent group. So maybe they belong to the onboarding team within HR and they've got an agent group because they are agents within Fresh. If they aren't agents within Fresh, then they will be in requested groups. And what we do is we'd set up a contact group and we'd probably say either their line manager is the HR director or their job title contains some common words. So HR business partner, people representative, it's those kind of things. It'll depend on your organization. So in our example, it's going to be HR team. I'm also going to add a second stakeholder. We'll get to that in a minute. So when our HR person fills the form in for the first time, what information do we need? So obviously by default, Fresh is giving me here the employee's name, their job title, the date they're joining, the department they belong to, and the location that they're in. Now, the department and location are 2 core tables within Fresh. Department is something you can set. Most commonly, most customers integrate their Fresh with Azure Active Directory, in which case you can choose to pull in those departments from Azure. Ideally, obviously, your Azure is attached to your HR system or some level of standardization, so you get a level of commonality. But I will say it is super, super common for that data to be bad. So if your data is bad, you are in good company. If your data is good, then have a gold star and go to the top of the class, because that is not that common. And then locations the same. You can manually set those locations. Depending on what the structure of your organization is. Maybe you're very office based, maybe you're geographically spread all over the world, maybe it's very campus based. Really, that depends on how the organization views its locations. I find there really isn't a top and bottom like really good way of doing locations, because each organization views location in a very different way depending on how they work. But again, location can be driven from the Active Directory or indeed any of that SSO data if you're using Google or Okta or whatever. So if you've got good clean data in your HR system, it's flowing down into Fresh. So we can then add or remove any of these fields on here. So I could come in here and say like preferred email address, for example. That's quite a common one. So, or maybe we got preferred name. I can't spell preferred. And I'm gonna leave it as blank. That's quite a common one, people being known by their middle names or people being known by a slightly different version of their name than their legal name. Or maybe we also want to have what the email address is going to be. And that's, again, always an interesting one that comes up a lot. And the general thing that I find with customers is having the HR team define what the email address is seems to be the least controversial way of doing it, because again, particularly when we generally do first name dot last name, I know some organizations kind of have a bit more of a randomized character thing to try and limit any spam or a fakery and that sort of thing. Particularly when it's first name dot last name and the way somebody's email might be versus their employee name, it's much easier just to say That is a person-related issue, not an IT issue. That's a conversation that HR should be having with somebody about how they want to be represented. But you can add lots of stuff on here. But what I would say to you is only add things that you are going to need later on, and only add things that are pertinent to the data. Don't start adding things here like laptops or phone choices or that sort of thing, because we're going to get into that when we get into kits. So I'm not going to drag loads of stuff on here right this second. I'm just going to hit save and continue. I can now add another stakeholder. Now, again, typically, probably the most common processes that I see are HR raise the form, the line manager has a step to perform in the process, and the employee has a step to perform in the process. So we're going to add the line manager, and they are going to be part of this process. So now what we can do, what this section is doing is saying, I'm going to pull this information in from form number 1, which was what HR filled out, and are there any additional fields that the line manager needs to give us indication on? So again, if it's to do with access, hardware, equipment, I would not do it here. I would wait and talk about kits in a minute, because that gives you a lot more flexibility to do things with assets and service requests and automation. It's if you want the line manager to give you any more information that maybe they are better to answer than HR representative. And off the top of my head right now, as I'm talking to you and talking through this, I can't think of anything, but I do want the line manager because I'm going to make them do technology selection. So that's fine. They're just going to get, when the HR manager now submits the form, the line manager is going to get a notification to say, an onboarding request has been raised. You now need to take action or approve it and then complete the next part of the form, but that's not going to be this bit. And then we can customize the email that goes to the line manager. So we're going to say here, it's going to come from our HR email address. Again, this is my demo site. It's not all super duper set up. I would be saying that obviously, if you have your HR team in Fresh, you've probably got peopleteam@yourcompany.com, whatever that is. And much like all the other bits and pieces in Fresh, you can then customize this to how you want. So this is obviously give me the link to the onboarding. If I wanted to here, I could then make this email fancier. I could include all the details here. I could add a banner. I could add a logo. I would definitely tick the reminder button, because that is perspective. It's the most common thing that happens, is that the process is getting stuck somewhere else much earlier on. And I would also here, when I'm doing joiners and leavers, I like to have the date involved kind of front and center, because it's not front and center, it gets forgotten about. Again, you can brand that up to however you want to. I'm not going to make you sit there and watch that while I'm doing that right now. And then my third stakeholder is going to be my new employee. Now, this is a really helpful thing to be able to do in this onboarding process that you couldn't do before the onboarding kind of really easily, because getting information from the employee was something that Fresh wasn't brilliant at, because you'd have to kind of publish a form and ask them to fill it in, or they'd reply on an email and whatever. So this is a really great feature, right? In terms of saying, okay, actually, what's the information I need from the employee that's joining us as they join? Most common one, delivery address. That is always a problem for IT guys. Where shall we deliver your equipment? And contact telephone number, because typically the couriers would like a contact telephone number, and you're sending out, often sending out a few £1,000s worth of equipment. You want to make sure that you're sending that tracked. We could also ask the employee lots of different things. I think in another demo I've done in the past, we've said, have they got a preferred email or a preferred name? And we've gone and asked them the question. Again, depending on your process where you want to put it, you could put it here. Those are the two most common. And then again, selecting equipment, selecting things like monitor arms, extra desks, working from home equipment, ergonomic mice, that sort of thing, we're going to do as part of kits. So here we're just collecting data. We're not making those equipment and service request selections. We can then also kind of hide what information that we want to show them. So maybe we don't want to show them new email address because that's not yet set up, for example. So we can take that off of there. Again, we can then send an email to them. I would brand this up, make it nice and pretty, add your branding to it, however you've managed to brand your service desk. It's probably one of the most important things to do when you're kind of launching a new thing is doing the branding. Again, I'm not going to make you sit through watching that with me right now. Just going to take you through how this is set up. Save and continue. Right, now we have our 3 stakeholders. You can do this with just one stakeholder. Most common, that's how I see it set up when I'm talking to people. Right, kits. Kits are then super powerful things that can leverage your service catalog. So by default, we've obviously got this all employees here that the HR business partner is selecting. So we can get rid of this one if we want to. So what we're doing with kits is we're saying employees with this set of criteria have the option to have these bits of equipment. So for example, we would probably have one like this, all employees, where we have no conditions applied. And we say we're going to have Zoom, we're going to have, what else can we put in here? Microsoft Office, put a laptop in. I'm not actually going to put a laptop on there because I want the line manager to do that one. Maybe we've got quite often timekeeping, time recording, that sort of thing. What are those mandatory things? And so if we select them, quite often what I like to do, say particularly with equipment stuff, is I like to make that the line manager's job, not the HR manager's job. Now maybe what we've done here, we could have like employee benefits. So I think pension is in my service log, for example. I'm going to have a quick look what's in my catalog. Right, so maybe our HR person actually, let's say all employees, HR, let's take these ones off because we'll come back to line manager in a minute. We go, what did I just see? Domestic relocation assistance, benefits change, something that I'd want the HR to fill out. HR application access, there we go. So this is where, if you think about it, the benefit of having the business teams comes in, because we've got our HR teams in Fresh, we've got our facilities team in, we've got our legal team in, and we've got IT. So what we're able to do when we're building kits is not just build kits of stuff that's technology based. We can also build kits of stuff that is relating to other teams. Now, our 3 stakeholders are the ones that are saying these are the things that are required, but we've then got a much wider group of stakeholders in facilities, for example, that then can feed off the back of those things. So let's say, for example, there you go. In this case, the HR team has to say that, and they can then select you can either default this, so this is pre-filling this information for the form to make it easier, and they can go in and edit it, or you can have them just fill it in. That doesn't mean they're going to get the ticket. It just means they're responsible for submitting effectively that little tiny service request off the back of this onboarding request. So HR items, let's say that. Cool. Right. More typically, what I'd say is fairly common, because teams are really starting to bring everybody together into one thing. And we're seeing that a lot with IT teams coming along, and then facilities and HR coming along and going, oh, that's kind of nice. We like that. That's kind of easy to follow. Can we come and have some of that too? So all employees, IT kit. So we're going to leave conditions empty again. Then we're going to have laptop. This laptop. We're going to have phone. We'll go with Zoom. I obviously don't have mobile phone in my little catalog. Maybe we have Illustrator. Maybe we have Office, cleaning services, internal transfer, Office 365. What you then do is effectively go through your service catalog. And if you don't have your service catalog already set up, then I would highly recommend setting it up for this purpose, is go through your service catalog and say, what are all the things that the line manager needs to opt this person into? Now, chances are that's HR access, building access, finance system access, any core IT systems. Maybe they're an IT person coming on board engineering, they need to be boarded with service accounts and that sort of thing. You can then add all of those things here on this form and prompt the line manager to say, which one of these things does this person need? So that whoever has to go and action that ticket for the joiner has a specific ticket to go and do that action straight away. That's the purpose of this. And then what you can also do is any of those service forms that you've set out. So in our service catalog, this is the bit I'm talking about, like service catalog. If they've got fields on there already, like the Zoom one does, well, then we can preset the fields. So then it's making it easier for that line manager to select that item, and just kind of reducing stuff out. So maybe Illustrator is optional, but Office 365 is mandatory. So they can't take that off, but you can see that it's almost part of like the order form at a dumpling restaurant. The line manager is able to go bang, 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 this, and this, for example. I'm going to have the line manager do that one. I'm going to hit create. What we could also do is, again, fairly common use case, marketing team. And we're going to say, if the department includes marketing, I don't have marketing in my demo, which is not very helpful when you're recording this for YouTube, but you know, let's say the department is IT. Let's pretend it's marketing. Look into my eyes. It's marketing, really. What we can do is then say, if this employee meets these criteria, then they get different options. There you go. Let's change it from marketing to development. Development laptops, VIP laptops, that sort of thing. So only if the employee belongs to a department or has a job title or meets that criteria will things like developer laptop then be shown to the line manager. So yes, we've got two kits here, standard IT kit, development kit, but when the line manager sees it, it becomes one relevant blended list. And we've seen this before with like a law firm, and they used two different timesheeting systems. And rather than having to have the service desk team know which one it was, we're able to say, if the person joining was a solicitor in this location, then show the line manager options for this time recording system versus this one. So they could never make a mistake, because what would happen is the line manager would select the one that they know they've got, but that wasn't the one for the employee because the employee was in a different subsidiary, that sort of thing. So you can build those kits out to your heart's content. The other kit that I would potentially do, the other thing I would do would be the employee making the selection. So maybe we had on our HR one, we had a remote work request, right? Did we have remote? We had something like that. Payroll, work from home. There you go. Get the keywords right. Maybe you want to let them select that straight up. Maybe we want to allow them to order and monitor ahead of time. Or you want to put all your HSE adaptions for home in here. You let them order a desk, you let them order a special keyboard, whatever it is. All of those things can then be given to the employee. So when they get the email that says, hey, we're preparing for your onboarding, we need this information about delivery address, and we need to know these other things. And again, for the law firm, that's the one that sticks in my head. They had things like pedals for the tape recorders. Well, not tape recorders anymore, but you know what I mean. So if the job title was legal secretary, then we gave the legal secretaries the option to order a pedal at the point they joined. What that meant was you didn't have to wait for them to join and then go through the whole kerfuffle of joining and then go, oh, now we need to order a pedal and it's another week. It gave IT 2-3 weeks head start to get that ordered and bundled up and ready to go for that person's day one, for example. So you can customize that to your heart's content. I'm now at 20 minutes talking about this, so I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit. So there's our kits. Right. Then we have kits. Then we have tickets. So again, this is default by the beginning. My blue one at the top is my onboarding request, which in Fresh is a special kind of ticket and doesn't behave the same as a normal parent-child ticket relationship. I will say manipulating this as of March 2025 through the API is a pain, something to go and think about if you're going to kind of go into this a little bit. It does do a great job in the round, but just be aware that that particular thing behaves differently. So what we're able to do here is say our employee onboarding request, our master request, which we're going to go through in a little bit more detail because I'm going to talk about this and then talk about how they look when they're submitted. Where does that belong? So in this case, it belongs with HR. We're going to assign it to our employee onboarding and offboarding team. And this is the information that needs to be held in that ticket because it's important to that customer. So for example, sorry, not customer, assignment group. Employee name, job title, date of joining, department location. Those were our default fields when we first started doing this. We can then add, well, preferred name, email address. Maybe they don't need a delivery address, right? Associate. We can also associate any onboarding items that that team also needs to do. So from our kits, these categories are from our service catalog. So again, we're reusing our service catalog again, and we can say actually employee benefits is dealt with by that team. So that also needs to be associated there as part of the actions. You've then got 4 example ones here that are create email address, provide ID, application access, provide laptop. Now, create email address, typically the first thing that we need to do, because obviously from an IT perspective, they do not exist until they have an email address. That is the primary key for that person. So we're going to go in and say the ticket to create the email address is going to go to the service desk. We're going to set the ticket as open, and this is the information we need, but we also need the email address and the preferred name. So we're going to include that, but we're not going to give them the delivery address because we don't need that. Is there anything else we'll need to include in that ticket? We could, right? But we're just going to say that's just the email address for now. And hit save. Now, I like to actually make my application access and my hardware access dependent on the email ticket being done first, because I cannot assign access to somebody who doesn't have identity, and I cannot build a laptop against them if they do not have identity. So there is no point. So we say this can pass information from ticket number 1 to ticket number 2, and we only then try and action it when the email address has been created, because maybe our application access is done by a totally different team. We might have a really big team. If you've got quite a big organization, quite often the service desk will do things like add users to groups, which I would highly recommend automating with Fresh because it's really straightforward. But maybe finance application access is handled by a specialist team, or indeed handled by finance. So maybe you want a ticket just for that, but you must have the email address first. And you don't want to have them emailing going, what's the email address of this person? I don't know yet. You can pass all that information all the way through. So in this case, we'll add the pertinent information to the ticket, and then application access, we're going to add our onboarding items. So then we're going to say they're also going to do these 2. We're going to hit associate. So now that one ticket has 3 service requests related, and we're pulling information forward, and we're pending that ticket until we're ready to do it because our email address ticket is done. Hit save. Now that's become a child. Same with the laptop provisioning. We then move that to pending. Move that to pending. Add hires information. Now, for hardware delivery and laptop, that is important. Delivery address, contact details. That's now on that ticket, ready to go. Add our items. There's our hardware delivery bits. And obviously our developer one was optional, so it won't always be there. All these things will only show up on those tickets if they were selected by those stakeholders. There we go. And then provide ID card. Again, personally, I would make that a predecessor of email address because that's going to go to my facilities team. But typically, again, if you're going to provide them ID, they're going to need an email address. And I would probably give them preferred name, employee name, line manager, employee, location when they're joining on that ticket. The other bit you probably want to do here is add in obviously the placeholders here for the employee and their start date, for example, because then that's super clear on that ticket, because otherwise you're going to have loads of email addresses with no differentiators, which will be a right pain to follow through on, for example, like that. So then everybody knows exactly when they are joining and what date they're working towards, for example. Now, because these are tickets, not onboarding tickets, you could manipulate some of this stuff in the API afterwards, workflows, all that sort of stuff. So it's worth sort of just thinking about maybe some more complicated things you might want to do, but for the now, we'll just keep it nice and simple for the sake of time and me talking on YouTube. So modifying approvals. So we also then want to say who the reporting manager's email is. So that's line manager, and the employees department is linked to department. So if we want approval rules to happen, we can turn that on. I'm not going to turn it on because it's just one more step when I try to do later. You can turn it on or off. and we hit save and finish. So that is now the basics of our employee onboarding within Fresh setup. And I'm going to pause there, edit this out, and then come back and show you what that looks like from the user's perspective. So thank you for following along up to this point. Hopefully that has been useful. If you or your organization needs assistance with Fresh Service, then myself and the Zest team are here to provide you with that. Be that consulting at some more advanced integrations, an extra pair of hands, ongoing support, health checks, any of that sort of stuff. We know the product backwards, and we also know what it's good and it's not good at. So hopefully you've enjoyed talking to me today, and I see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.